welcome to this latest video of the Flipped History series. This video has 4 learning intentions. The first learning intention is to indicate the causes and consequences of the resistance at Red River in 1869. The second learning intention is to describe the main points of the Indian Act. The third learning intention is to indicate the consequences of the national policy on the Métis. And the fourth learning intention is to explain the relationship between the Canadian government and Aboriginal people in the 1880s. 2 years after Confederation, in 1869, the Hudson's Bay Company and the Government of Canada reached an agreement to transfer Rupert's Land to the new Dominion. This included the Red River settlement, of which Fort Garry was the main outpost. The people who lived in this territory, many of them were Métis, so the descendants of Aboriginal people and the French. They were not consulted, and more Canadian and American settlers began to move into the territory. So the people faced an uncertain future. Would their claims and the rights to the land be protected by the new Dominion? Louis Riel became the leader of this group, and he prevented the lieutenant governor and surveyors from Ontario from entering the settlement. The Métis then set up what's known as a provisional or temporary government, and they issued the Declaration of the People of Rupert's Land in the northwest and sought to negotiate entry into Confederation by protecting their rights. Now, not everyone agreed with this, and the provisional government put a number of people in jail, people that were calling the Métis traitors to the crown, even though Riel swore loyalty to the Queen. That's an important part. But in March of 1870, under the orders of Riel, Thomas Scott, who was a supporter of entry into Confederation and who had been egging on Riel and calling him all kinds of terrible things, was ordered executed without trial. This made people in Ontario very angry at Louis Riel, and very quickly the provisional government released the other prisoners in exchange for protection of Métis rights. By July, entry into Confederation was accepted, and the province of Manitoba was created. However, Louis Riel was forced to flee to the United States when a Canadian military force was approaching Fort Garry. The Indian Act of 1876 was a law designed to regulate Indigenous people in Canada, as strange as that may seem. It aimed to consolidate laws that were already on the books dealing with Indigenous people, but it must be noted, not the Métis or the Inuit. The main theme of the Indian Act was assimilation and continuing to try to civilize these native peoples. In the 1850s, however, laws were passed in Lower Canada to protect the lands of native people. Many groups lived on lands that had been reserved for them, many dating back to the French regime. This law also brought in the idea of status, Indian status, based on blood. Throughout the 1870s as well, there was treaty making between the Canadian government and the people of the prairies. So this was going on in the context of American wars against Native peoples to the south. And in the Canadian experience, it allowed for a relatively peaceful settlement. In return, the federal government was required to provide instruction and aid, specifically food aid, to help transition these nomadic people to a sedentary way of life. They, in return, For settling on reserves, they got to maintain hunting and fishing rights. The government also sought to control the West further by bringing in the Northwest Mounted Police, and the Canadian government expected Indigenous people to be self-sufficient almost immediately. Unfortunately, reserve lands were poor, and the supplies from the government were inadequate. By the 1880s, the situation for Indigenous people on the prairies became dire. Prime Minister John A. Macdonald, who was also the Minister of the Interior and the head of Indian Affairs, refused to increase the amount of food aid given to Indigenous people after a particularly harsh winter in 1883-84. The Métis were being pushed further west by settlers coming in, who were traveling through the new railway that had been the Canadian Pacific Railway that was being created. They had moved into Saskatchewan, and in 1884, the Métis brought Louis Riel back to help them petition Ottawa for help and to negotiate entry into Confederation. In early 1885, the Métis surprised a Northwest Mounted Police detachment, and it ended up in a full-scale battle. Other native warriors began to attack settlements in Saskatchewan, and John A. Macdonald sought to crush this Northwest rebellion by sending in the army. Up to 800 soldiers were rushed out west on the Canadian Pacific Railway. The rebellion came to a head, the Battle of Batoche, where the Canadian Army won a very decisive victory. Riel was captured and put on trial for treason. He was found guilty, but the jury recommended mercy, which the Canadian government, under John A. Macdonald, denied. His execution had a strong reaction in Quebec. Giant protest was held in Montreal, led by two leading Liberal politicians, Honoré Mercier, the Premier of Quebec, and Wilfrid Laurier, the future Liberal Prime Minister. Riel's death was seen as a symbolic death of the French presence in the West. It's interesting to note that he was not seen as a native person by the people in Quebec, but of a French person. Well, thanks for watching. As you complete your summary, please consider the following essential question: what happens when cultures collide?